The second annual I Am Her Feminine Hygiene Drive, supporting young ladies from Ghana, Africa in need of everyday essentials and feminine hygiene products, was a great success. Thanks to the generosity of our community and organizations like Period.org, Muskegon Heights Public School Academy, Confident Cosmetics, Muskegon Heights Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Inc., and everyone who made a contribution, hundreds of young ladies and village members received essential items. The community made a lasting impact with more than 10,000 sanitation items donated. If you would like to help, donations can be made year-round by dropping off items in the donation shed at the Mays and Wright Media Center, located at 1877 Peck Street, or making a contribution to paypal.me/1037thebeats. For more information, call 231-727-5007. Thank you for supporting I Am Her Foundation.
All right, family. Good afternoon. Welcome to the show, PA. And I got my good friend, my big brother, Cedric Scott, psychologist Cedric Scott, Muskegon Heights grad, class of 1979, right?
Right.
Went on to be a Detroit police officer. Now is a psychologist where he has the Lazarus Consulting Group right here in the heart of Muskegon Heights, a building that he purchased a block away, 2 blocks away from where he was born and raised in. And we wanted to get his perspective on what is happening in our community. Welcome to the show, Brother Cedric. How you doing today, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Paul.
Yes. You counsel young men and women all the time, right?
That's correct. That's correct. And have done that for the past 26 years, Muskegon.
Now, we know 2020 there was a drop in crime in our community, a pretty significant drop. What do we see happening right now? What are the youth dealing with that we need to take a look at?
Well, what may be a correlation to that drop is the fact that we were all sheltering in place as well. You remember the pandemic, and so there wasn't as much contact with one another out in the public space, public gatherings. Whenever you get that sort of constant contact with individuals, and some individuals who lack the necessary social skills and emotional control or regulation, as it's called, then you have those conflicts, individuals' inability to solve those conflicts in a meaningful, peaceful way. And so what you have a lot, I would suspect with a lot of these incidences are rivals, past beefs, and constant disagreements among different factions, cliques, gangs, associations, et cetera, and a constant barrage of violence to solve the problem. Violence as a means to solve our problem. So you have a conflict of reasoning, I like to call it.
A lot of us are suppressing things that bother us or hurt us, that we're dealing with things from the past. How should we unpack these issues that we're dealing with internally? How should kids unpack them, and when should they go see a counselor, or should they go?
It seems I'm having this conversation every day, Paul, more and more every day, with individuals, mothers, children, parents, schools, districts, businesses, because it appears that they're noticing trauma, if you will, and acted out in their employees, students, friends, family, manifesting that way in many different fashions: anger, aggression, depression, anxiety. And so it's rampant, because remember, we just talked about that past year of no social contact, sheltering in place, which also meant no community organizations that help to facilitate the cooperativeness of the community, if you will. No school, where school is also a major player in facilitating pro-social skills and rule and emotional regulation. So we didn't have those elements in 2020. So yeah, you're right. All of that now has manifested itself and beginning to show itself in many different facets. Suicide rate for African American adolescents and young adults, highest rates it's ever been in the history of this country. Now you also have this barrage of anger and violence and murder acting out because many people, I won't get too psychological here, but many people not understanding what that feeling is that they're experiencing every day. And psychosis running rapid through our community that were at one time buffered by organizations providing sustenance needs for these individuals with visible mental health issues, mental health funding cut, mental health opportunities for diversity and services cut, stalemated, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of dynamics going into what's happening in our community, Paul, and about the country, quite frankly. So I like to put my finger on one thing, but unfortunately, I don't think I can. And you and I aren't going to solve this issue today, as a matter of fact. But if we can do anything, we can bring some insight into how we can work together as a community and try and change some of the dynamics. That's the ability at a major rate, significant rate every day.
Wow, Cedric Scott, psychologist Cedric Scott, on the violence in our community. The last couple of days has been definitely traumatizing. These are young adults, though. These are we're seeing the young 20s, 20-year-olds, middle 20-year-olds caught up in the violence. We're seeing those connected to hip hop. And I don't want to put it all on hip hop, but how much a role do our surroundings, things we listen to, things that we digest, how much of an impact do that have on your thinking?
Significant impact. Because even if you think about our emotions to a great extent, it's dictated or regulated by our perception of the reality that we're experiencing. And when your reality is one of vengeance, violence, hate, anger, resentment, at a constant click every day, Paul, then it's going to create a perception of defensiveness, maybe, or aggression, maybe. And those things often have manifested itself in a way that requires action. That action, what we're seeing from those things that's being manifested is the violence. That is the result of all those constant barrages of kill this, take that, anger, hostility, hopelessness, despair, etc. So that's what we're going to continue to see manifesting itself from day to day if the message isn't changed.
Who I know we put it all a lot on the police, but what role should us as community people? I hope you can you hear me good? Can you hear
I
me
can,
good?
yeah. I'm trying to find out where that echo is coming from. I think I turned my radio down.
Okay, can you can hear me good now?
I can, yeah.
Okay. What role should we as citizens play in trying to decrease violence and trying to get a grip on what's going on?
Well, as we begin to throttle our businesses back and our community organizations back, that's one angle I like to see take hold, building safe havens for younger adolescent adults, sending the message of care and concern for the way our kids are being cultivated and educated as early as K through 8, I should say, in the formative years where they're being fed a message of hope, prosperity, education, and self-reliance, things of that nature, and being praised for their efforts in making those decisions from day to day. If you think or take a deeper look at some of the issues when I mentioned gangs and violence, much of that is centered around the love and camaraderie that they received from their homeboys or their mans, and the opportunity for maybe even earning income, money, wealth from being a tight knit group. Some of them have told me they received the love that they never had before in a family. They don't know what a family looks like, a healthy family, that is. And so not many options. Again, going back to hopelessness, despair. When a person is hopeless and full of despair, anything's an option. All bets are off. We do whatever we need to do to survive, even if it means conducting ourselves like a savage, an animal, an angry, murderous individual. If it has a means to an ends, money, camaraderie, trust among the people that they value the most in their lives, then that's all bets are off, and they're all in for whatever that situation may be. So.
Psychologist Cedric Scott, is it hard for parents to be tough on their kids when they become grown, when they become independent? They still need that guidance, but is it hard for us to be tough on them?
What I've seen a lot of is parents kind of dismissing and saying they're an adult. There's nothing I can do to curtail their actions, and there's some truth to that. Nevertheless, I'll put it this way. I'll get even personal with it. I personally believe that your values and your expectations should never change. That's a constant, lifelong understanding that the parent has with the child. Maybe that was never displayed in the first place, what your values were or expectations were for that individual. And so now that may need to be revisited or hell, recalibrated, quite frankly. Maybe you didn't have it in the first place. Maybe that wasn't an understanding that the street life, if you will, the gangster life, wasn't a life of longevity. It isn't a life of longevity, and it never will be. There's no retirement, no pension in the gangster life, if you will.
Have you counseled anybody who has been convicted of a violent crime?
Oh, absolutely. Many.
And what's been the aftermath? What has been their feelings after they had committed those acts?
I can think of several that really were regretful, remorseful of the incident, but still, based on the circumstances, often it's deemed justified. It was either him or me. And that's, again, what we started this conversation talking about, our perception of our reality, our perception of our choices. It's quite frankly our position we've placed ourselves in over the course of years and years, placed ourselves in a position to where we've had to deal with the environment in an angry, violent way. We all know that sometimes in the street life, Paul, you and I both came from the neighborhood, and we've heard enough or seen enough to know that this isn't peaches and cream. Sometimes you're out in the street and you're in a position to where it's either killed or be killed. But the alternative to that is to avoid having to be in that position in the first place. So I've tried to go upstream, if you will, to the 8, 12, 15-year-old to help them understand how you wind up at 20 years old, having to fend for yourself in the street, lack of education, lack of skill, lack of knowledge, to cultivate resources or income for yourself because you failed to do that early on. Now, I'm not talking about if you have a learning disability or you're in special education. There's still opportunities for you to make an honest way for yourself in this country without having to diminish to a capacity of simple violence in the street and gangster life. Now, that's a choice you make. Oftentimes, that's the results. The results you receive are a hostile environment, violence, and danger. So,
I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask you a couple of terms, and if you can describe how it might play into the mindset. Jealous and envy.
mm-hmm.
How do that play into the mindset of some perpetrators? Do that play a role? I'm gonna give you some more terms.
Let's go back to what I just said in terms of going upstream, in terms of making some type of educational achievements, gaining some knowledge or trade or skill as you're growing in age. Individuals who never have done that, who never had the guidance or leadership to cultivate that, seeing individuals who do, for whatever reason, have a skill, trade, or look, or heck, sometimes we see in our community a pair of gym shoes that wasn't afforded in their life, create the jealousy or resentment, or someone caring about them more than they've ever had someone care for them in their life. It could be a number of different elements, but if we consider, as an adult, you asked me earlier what we can do as an adult in the community. If we can go upstream and start cultivating the different reality or different perception of the younger individuals, then ultimately we'll get a stream or a cluster, if you will, of individual adolescents with the wherewithal and understanding of what I'm trying to cultivate or discuss today, the need for this type of new perception, if you will, of our reality. And as adults, we have tried our best to facilitate that opportunity for that new perception of reality, if you know what I'm saying.
Exactly. Do you have any openings to help out parents who need help with their kids, need some counseling?
I do. I have several other therapists working here as well who have space for different times and for different parents or different adolescents in this organization. So there's plenty of room. There's time and room available. We take different insurances as well, different payment methods here as well. So yeah, sure.
Do counseling help?
Absolutely. Counseling is all about facilitating new opportunities for change and perception. And oftentimes our debilitating issues are often due to our perception of what's going on in our lives in the first place. Not necessarily in need of medication or that may be the case, but more times than not, it isn't. It's a new outlook on life, if you will, opportunity for change.
Got a couple online comments. Michelle Tyson says, totally agree.
Thank you, Michelle.
And Pamela Chandler said, amen, that's the truth when you were speaking earlier about the community environment. What else can you share to the community that you think is important for us to know?
Well, there's hope. Oftentimes we think of it as such a doom-filled environment because we start to see some of the worst step out and do what they do. But I still say that our community, Muskegon Heights community, is still full of peaceful, loving, hardworking people. There's a small percentage of individuals that's going to steal the thunder of all those in the helpful, wonderful people in our town, it seems. But our job as leaders, facilitators of change is to microphone, if you will, the positives and continue to eradicate those negatives and let them know that we're not accepting it. We won't accept it. There's no way to live in violence, hate, and resentments and constant fear of your life. It doesn't have to be that way because we're an African American community, and especially knowing all the good people that I know who are more than willing to help, more than willing to lend a hand to help revitalize and build our community. I truly don't believe that we have an overwhelming amount of hate-filled, violent, murderous individuals in our community. I just don't believe it. You have to prove it to me, Paul.
Right. I agree. What can you say to the parents who have lost their sons? Two young men have been killed in the past 48 hours, and one young man is in the hospital.
No.
What can you say to those parents? And everybody's going to grieve differently, and it's a long process.
It is a grieving process.
Yes.
And that I understand that grieving process, and my heart and my prayer go out to them. But in your process of grieving, try to experience the positive of what can flow from that incident, and try and build on what you would like to have seen him or her do in their future, and dedicate that to them. In other words, use your energy that you're feeling from this whole process in a positive way, if you can. Ultimately, I know it's virtually impossible right now. You're such pain. I can't imagine losing a child of my own, and when I think about it, it's overwhelming, and it actually is just something I'm thinking about. But so I understand that the pain, I really do. But ultimately, if we choose to go on and move forward, I highly suggest we move in a positive direction and be more productive and helpful to try and alleviate that pain that we're experiencing, or that they're experiencing in others, so that we eliminate that happening to anyone else again.
Big Rob said, great session. Dr. Aaron Percival said, I believe we still have hope.
Absolutely.
I agree. I
Yes,
agree with
we
what I
do.
said. It doesn't feel like it right now, but I don't believe that most of our kids and young adults are in the streets.
We're being pressed, Paul, in more ways than we want to imagine. We're being pressed economically, socially.
I think I lost you there, Cedric. I think I lost your feed there. Might be a bad internet connection. But anyway, thanks for joining us this segment with Cedric Scott. And coming up on the show, we're going to be having DJ Hilson coming up on the show. Also coming up on the show, we're going to be talking to Pastor Greer from the Social Justice Commission. Going back to more music, it's the Afternoon Jams.